I don't even know how to begin anymore. That's bad. Hi guys, welcome back to Carey Berry. So it has been a while. Yeah. So it's been about a month since I last posted a video now. And I have been very busy. So I didn't actually post a wrap up for April. But I did read a lot of books. So yeah, I have been super busy. It has been the last kind of 2 months of my PGCE because I'm training to be a teacher, and as of now I have just finished pretty much the last thing standing between me and qualified teacher status. Literally I just gave my final presentation, so I am pretty much almost done. I have a week left of placement, then I've got a week of stuff at uni, like end of stuff, and then I am done. So in 2 weeks or so I will be finished. This is terrifying, but it's half term at the moment, and basically I actually finally have some time, not very much, but some. So I figured I'd sit down and actually wrap up what I read in April and May. So to kick it off, I read Law by Alexandra Bracken. This feels like I read it a long time ago, and I basically did because I think I actually finished it on the 1st of April. And when I say finished it, I think I'd only read like 60 pages, and then like I read most of it on the 1st of April, so I actually count this as an April read. But from what I can remember of this, I loved it. Like, I mean, come on, we knew I was gonna love this because Greek mythology is my thing, so we knew I was gonna love it. But also just gorgeous, I still can't get over that. But essentially I really enjoyed this. I think some aspects of it were slightly predictable, like the major plot points I was fairly like, I knew what was gonna happen, but I did still really enjoy it, so it was a good way to start off April reading wise. Then I actually have a reading vlog dedicated to these, so I will link it in the description and in the cards. But then I read the Shadow and Bone series. So the first one I liked. It was okay, nothing to like rave about. Second one I did not enjoy as much. Nikolai was the only saving grace, and I stand by that. And the third one, yeah, it was okay. I think I liked it more than the second one, but at the same time, like, I still had a lot of issues with it, I think. I can't really remember, to be honest. But then I read these. So Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom, which are in the same universe. And Six of Crows immediately I loved. I just think so much better than Shadow and Bone, and no wonder they included it in the Shadow and Bone show, because otherwise, yeah, I don't think I would have liked Shadow and Bone the show as much if the crows hadn't been in it. And yeah, you can see why, like, they totally stole the show. So yeah, I did really enjoy this. I thought it was really funny. I loved the characters way more than I did in Shadow and Bone. I just thought they were all better. So yeah. But then, oh, that's the wrong way around. But then Crooked Kingdom I loved more. So Crooked Kingdom I actually haven't been able to stop thinking about since reading it. Like, it was so good that I really actually struggled to put it down at times, but like, the characters develop so much. Like, it's so good. Like, I just loved it so much that I just can't stop thinking about it. The development was just insane, like so good. So yeah, I really enjoyed that. Yeah, oh, I just loved it. And I am really, really hoping that she does actually write the third one, like there have been rumours, because I need it. One that I also forgot to mention, I read After Ruin and Rising. Technically it's in Ruin and Rising, but it doesn't count because Goodreads said. So, after Ruin and Rising, at the end you get The Demon in the Wood, which is a short, like, novella about the Darkling's past and when he was a child. So I read that, and Goodreads says it counts as a separate book, so winning. One behind my goal at the moment, but let's not. After that, my final book of the month for April was Pandora's Jar by Natalie Haynes. I have finally read this. So I have been meaning to read this for the longest time. I love Natalie Haynes, I love her writing. Again, A Thousand Ships lives in my mind rent free. I cannot stop thinking about it every day. I'm like, I just think of some of the lines, or I'm like, I really want to read it again, and I just can't stop thinking about it. So it's definitely one that I want to reread. But Pandora's Jar is slightly different. It's a non-fiction. It's more of a look at historical art pieces of each of the women she explores. So we've got Pandora, Jocasta, Helen, Medusa, the Amazons, Clytemnestra, Eurydice, Phaedra, Medea and Penelope. So what Natalie Haynes does is she explores historical art pieces and like plays and how they had an effect on how these women have been portrayed, and it's incredible. Like, because I love Greek myths, this just appeals to me, and of course I did my undergraduate dissertation on the myth of Persephone, and I did a very similar thing but for Persephone. So yeah, I just loved this. Wish she'd done a chapter on Persephone, because would have been good. But I did love this, no surprises there. I think if you're not a huge Greek mythology fan, I probably would avoid this one. It can be quite repetitive, but she does a really good job in explaining the pieces and how they actually relate, which is quite useful. But yeah, amazing. So then we get to May, and the first book I read in May was Witches Steeped in Gold by Shannon Smart. This was actually an ARC sent to me by the publishers, but I got it really close to the date where it was released, so I didn't get to read it beforehand, and it is actually a finished copy they sent me, which was really, really lovely of them, and I'm very grateful because I also loved it. No surprises, I kind of knew that I would. So Witches Steeped in Gold is a Jamaican inspired fantasy about two girls from like different kind of tribes that are both kind of trying to kill the queen. One is her daughter, the kind of princess, I guess you'd say, and well, she's more of an emissary, like she has a role, like she has a proper job. And then one is the former princess of the family that the queen toppled and murdered, basically. So really, really great book, and basically they pair up to try and overcome her, and yeah, it was just incredible at the start. Really confusing, but what fantasy isn't, let's be real. So yeah, really, really good. I really enjoyed this. Yeah, it took some really good turns. Like, at times I just could not predict where it was going, and I loved that. And the atmosphere was incredible throughout it. Like, it was just so rich, and I just loved it. Like, everything was explained really well. Obviously it can be really confusing when you first read it, but the more I got into it, the more I understood. And yeah, the whole system was just incredibly well thought out, and I loved it. The next book I read is Before the Coffee Gets Cold, Tales from the Cafe by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. So this is a kind of sequel to Before the Coffee Gets Cold, and I really loved this. I actually think I liked it more than Before the Coffee Gets Cold. So with this, each one focuses on a different person going back in time or forwards in time in the cafe, and it was just really lovely. I really enjoyed this. It made me cry so much but it was really good. Such a small book as well. How do I have so many tears for such a teeny tiny book? But anyway, it was just really good. Like, the way that they handled grief I really liked. The foreshadowing aspects I liked. Like, everything about it kind of reinforced the history and background of the cafe, which again I just loved. It gave the characters a lot more depth that I think I felt they were missing when I read the first one. But yeah, it was really good. The overall message about finding happiness and after loss was just good. Like, I just loved so much about this. Yeah, very emotional read though. Okay, so my next read was The Heavens by Sandra Newman. It was a weird read. So this is a kind of historical fiction in that the main character essentially time travels through her sleep to another character in the past. And the things that she does there have an impact on the world that she's living in now. And it very odd. Like, when I started it, I was really liking it. I thought that the setup was great. I loved the writing, and I liked the writing throughout, but when I first started reading it, it had a real, I don't know what it was, but it really reminded me of The Great Gatsby and F. Scott Fitzgerald's writing, because there was just this Gatsby-like feel to it, which is really weird because there's not that much partying, but what kept going through my head was that Kate, the main character, is kind of like this manic pixie dream girl, and Ben, the other main character, is kind of like Nick from The Great Gatsby. But as this went on, I just got more and more confused. And yeah, it was very confusing. You couldn't always see where it was going, and things weren't entirely obvious. As you got to the end, it was more like, I really don't know what's happening now. But yeah, I gave this one 3 stars. It's like, the writing was good, I just didn't get it. I don't really get what they were trying to say, other than the world is screwed. Maybe that was the message, but I just don't know. I was very, very confused with this. It sent me into kind of a slump. Like, I also got quite superstitious when I was reading this, so I went for a job interview, and the place where the interview was is directly mentioned in this book, and it's not a well-known place. And the night before the interview, I was reading the book and the place was mentioned, and I was like, it's a sign. And then I got this weird thing in my head where I couldn't finish the book until they'd told me if I'd got the job or not, and they still haven't, because various things have come up and they've had to basically keep pushing it back, which is frustrating but understandable. And eventually I had to just get over that because I wanted to finish it and read some other books. But yeah, it was a weird read and a weird time to read it, so yeah. And next I got to read one of my favourites, So one of my most anticipated releases of the year came out, and I include this in that video, so I will link it, but by one of my favourite authors, Taylor Jenkins Reid. So Malibu Rising came out, and I pre-ordered this from Waterstones, so technically doesn't count against my book buying ban. Technically, very technically. And so what I'm doing is, with my pre-orders, I'm not allowed to read them. However, you may be wondering why this is included in a wrap-up if I'm not allowed to read my pre-orders, because I'm on a book buying ban. But for Malibu Rising, I actually have an arc on NetGalley. So I have an ebook arc. So I was giving myself this one because I know I have to read it for a review. So that's my get out of jail free card. But yeah, this is the Waterstones edition. So inside it's got these beautiful like waves, and is also signed. So yeah, it's also signed by her, which I just love. And reading this was strange because it's quite a big book, and I read it in a day. I read it in 10 hours. I started it at 10, and by 8 o'clock I'd finished it. Obviously I kept putting it down in between, but I just loved it. I couldn't put it down. Well, I could, but like, I didn't want to. But yeah, I also kept thinking about the cover blurbing from Holly Bourne, which says the perfect beach read with the emotional depth of the ocean, and I entirely agree with that. I think it's a really easy read, perfect, especially if you already know like the kind of universe. So from Daisy Jones and Evelyn Hugo, you kind of know some of the characters, you can spot the links, and I was just loving it. However, one thing that I did think is the plot not really there. So while I did give this 5 stars because I absolutely loved it, and Taylor Jenkins Reid is a queen and I only have one book of hers left to read, the plot isn't really there. So I think if you're going into this expecting a lot of plot, don't, because you just won't find it. It's more exploring the history of this family and uncovering the events that happen on the night, but it's phenomenal, because the characters are just done so well. The exploration of grief is incredible, like the family bonds incredible, like even the development of other characters who we don't really see, like you see them develop, you see them in the night, she explains them really well. But yeah, it's insane. I just loved it so much, and I think it was an incredible addition to that universe. Just realised I haven't actually explained what it's about. So Malibu Rising is about the family of Mick Reaver. So he was one of Evelyn Hugo's husbands, her third, and it's about his kids with his previous wife. And yeah, so they grow up together, and you basically look at flashbacks from Mick's relationship with their mum June, and flashbacks of them growing up to the present day. And the present day is their annual summer party, that now that they're famous, it's getting more out of control. And by 7 o'clock the next morning, there's a wildfire in Malibu. So it's exploring how that started, what happened at the party, all of that, and it's just beautiful. Like, it's done so well. I just loved it. I cried so much. I cried less than 100 pages in. There were so many times where I just didn't stop. It was at one point where, like, you know when all the tears are like pooling under your chin, and I like wiped it with my sleeve and I just came away drenched, and I was like, should probably put this down for a minute while I actually bawl my eyes out, because I can't keep reading because my eyes are so blurry I can't see the words. But yeah, I loved it. I really did. It was just perfect. It was everything I actually wanted from this, because I couldn't entirely see what the plot would be, and again, there isn't really one, it's just more vibes and history, which I loved. I thought it was perfect. So, and then finally, another book that I actually read in a day, but this won't be a surprise. So I read this on Bank Holiday Monday in the park, in the sun, sunbathing. Oh, it was perfect. But I read The Sad Ghost Club by Liz Meddings, or Lies? I think it's Lies. So yeah, I read The Sad Ghost Club by Liz Meddings, which is a graphic novel that focuses on anxiety. And this was actually quite an emotional read for me. And there were so many times when I was reading this that I was like, this is so relatable. Or like, I wish I'd had this when I was in sixth form. I wish I'd had this when I was younger. Like, I wish I'd had this before I knew that other people felt the same way. Because a lot of it I was like, that is literally how my brain works. Like, she's looked into my brain, figured out how it works and put it on paper. But yeah, I really loved this. It was really heartwarming and sad and hopeful. So yeah, it made me really a bit emotional. But yeah, I really loved it, and the illustrations and stuff are just like so cute, so beautiful, and yeah, I just loved it. Okay, so those are the 13 kind of books that I read in April and May. Let me know in the comments if you've read any of them, like what you read, what was your favourite. Yeah, I think my favourite was probably Malibu Rising, but Crooked Kingdom, strong contender. So yeah, I think Crooked Kingdom, my favourite of April, Malibu Rising, my favourite of May. So yeah, let me know, have you read any of those? What did you think? What did you think of the Shadow and Bone show? Let me know. And yeah, I will... Oh, I've really forgotten how to like end these, I just get so excited now. But don't forget to like this video and comment, obviously, and also subscribe to me if you haven't already. So yeah, I'm gonna try and post more videos over the summer, because now that I'm at the end of my PGC I will have more time. So yeah, give me a subscribe. I'm almost at 300 I think, which is exciting. And yeah, I will see you in the next one. Okay, bye guys.